guys, Ash here in Godforge from the Fateless crew.
How dare you, Dwight? Don't fire me.
I'm joined by Hell Hades, aka Simon, co-founder, and just really everything is synonymous, Hades and Fateless as it stands right now, but you have a great team alongside of you. We get Dan or Fiction and Sham as well. You guys are super busy at Gamescom. Today we're gonna update everything on Fateless, on Godforge, and also I want to tackle some of like the first little bits of criticism and or questions that we're getting from the community. But first, Simon, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well, man. Like it's a week past Gamescom now, and honestly, like the first time I've been to Gamescom was a real buzz. It was really cool to meet some of the kind of like European arm of Fateless, and yeah, sort of back into the grind now with, you know, back onto the game dev and, you know, the regular meeting flow and all that type of stuff. But it was really cool to get out there with a live demo and be able to show people, you know, like the first look of the game.
That's awesome. I saw a lot of one of your videos kind of from the booth, and it seemed like you guys were having a hell of a good time there, and the reception seemed to be really good for the sneak peeks, I would say, of the actual game, which if you missed it, it is the first game by Fateless Studios, is going to be Godforge. It looks awesome. Like we'd never got an IP, right?
Yeah.
There was, I don't know, what's the official stance here? Are you saying any of the IPs that were in consideration, or is it top secret at this point? And is it?
I mean, we signed NDA, so we can't really.
Okay.
But I mean,
can I? I don't think I signed an NDA. I
mean, maybe say some ones that you hoped we might have spoken to, and I'll sit here quietly.
I hoped as a long time Magic the Gathering player, I hope that maybe there was some opportunities there. But honestly, the idea of kind of gods and legends, sure, like it's newsflash, it's been done before, right? But it also has unlimitless potential, right? Because think about it. I mean, we could talk about like the Herculean Greek gods, or we could talk about like the Aztec gods, or we could talk about modern or old gods, or anything in between. It really gives you this massive like universe of little IPs that aren't IPs, I guess, right? That you can pull from and add new content to the game. You know, we were talking about like horror themed stuff, or, you know, there's a lot of potential there.
And what's interesting as well, so as the community kind of reach out to us and give us ideas, it goes way further than even we thought. So because it's gods, myths, and legends, it's really vast. We actually had some comments of originally people saying, how can you ever get to 300 heroes in your game if you're going to use like gods and stuff? And it's like, well, actually, if you really look into it, if you just went into like Indian gods, it's like 1,000.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, Egyptian, Greek, like there's so many. And then when you like to factor in myths and legends as well, which becomes a bit more vague. You know, we're kind of like debating whether Robin Hood is actually a legend at the moment, and there's a whole bunch like that which kind of fall into the same categories, but does mean that we can do some really fun stuff actually, and really different stuff as well. So I think all in all we pretty much landed on our feet by going in this direction, because we got complete freedom of character design. You know, with an IP you've got a little bit of a stranglehold in terms of what you're allowed to do. Everything has to be signed off. All the colors have to look like this. You know, there's so many different things which you have to conform with. Whereas actually for us, it's just a case of let's do a bunch of research and let's try and create some cool stuff.
No, I love it. I'm happy. A blessing in disguise in terms of the IP situation, for me at least. I'm really thrilled with this. So I want to ask you out the gate here about monetization in this game, right? Because that's the number one thing is, and man, like I just want to address the elephant in the room, at least for me, man. I don't know how you feel, but the expectations on this game are so unbelievably high because people know you, they know the Hell Hades team, they know a lot of the creators involved in this project, and I think it's just like, okay, we need to solve everything that Raid has ever done wrong and come up with like the best product. Where personally, I never viewed this as like a Raid killer. I don't think, like, we've called 150 billion games, I feel like, Raid killers out there, and Raid's done an amazing job. Like, they're still so successful in the genre, one of the most successful, if not the most, after 5+ years.
And you can hug it out, bitch.
I think my goal is to just make a really fun game, right? Like that I enjoy playing and people enjoy playing, but I want to, it all starts with monetization when we talk about this genre of game. So I want to ask you out the gate, how are you handling, what is your own personal philosophy on monetization on this, your first game?
So I think I want to talk on a couple of things quickly first. So
Sure.
Firstly, we don't want to create a raid killer, right?
Yeah.
So we've got another business, HH Gaming. We employ 18 people in that business. If Raid just disappears, that's a pretty sorry state for those people that are employed that do content on Raid. So, like, we got no kind of like hope to take down a company like Raid. In fact, we really like the game. That's why we've covered it for so long. But yeah, we would love to be able to be in the same sort of conversation as Raid in terms of, you know, people's interest in our type of game. And it's also worth saying as well that, you know, to get to where we are now, you know, creating a game which is going to have somewhere close to 300 heroes on launch, you know, loads of different game modes, the type of graphics that we're aiming for and pushing to do, like that's not cheap to make. Yeah, we had to get millions in investment to even get to this stage of being able to launch this game. So it's well worth saying, like we can't just go out there and be everything's free and, you know, it's a completely free game for everything that you do. And in fact, no game can, otherwise they just don't run. So that's kind of like the preface to it, because we will have, I guess, pay to progress faster.
I only have like $3.50, so it's hard, super hard.
I'm not going to say pay to win, so I don't think it is pay to win, but there will be an element of, if you spend a bunch of cash, then you will be able to get heroes quicker than the next guy who's just playing free to play.
Yeah.
But what we don't want in the game is a model where the free to player could never compete with someone who spent money. They'll just get there at a slower pace. So that's the important thing from a kind of like pay to win mentality. And I think, you know, some of the games in this genre, they don't end up in that place because it's got to a point where it's impossible to do that. And we definitely don't want it to be impossible to play on that kind of even footing. But there's also a couple of game modes where specifically they will be like skill and knowledge based. So even if you spent $1 million on the game, I saw your video where you interviewed someone that spent $1 million.
Yeah.
Even if you spent $1 million in Godforge, you would have zero advantage over the guy that literally started playing tomorrow, providing, well, unless you had more skill and knowledge in the game. And that's the important part for me. So yeah,
Okay,
two
wait a
normalized modes.
Okay. So 2 normalized modes. So let's rewind, because that intrigues me. I know a little bit about these, but I really want to hear as much as you can share. I'm not sure how much is public, but I love normalized modes. I've been asking for it for a while. I'm sure you have too in Raid. Like, to me, especially PvP, I mean, it's so unbelievably lacking. But I digress. It would be cool to see in PvE as well. But like, back to monetization, you said obviously like spending for the equivalent of shards and opening and getting heroes faster will be a dynamic of this game. I'm sure that's not going to surprise anybody in this genre. But beyond that, do you expect, like, have you even reached or come to any conclusions or at this point in the conversation when it comes to like something as simple as like pop-ups? You know, ads.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
will there be pop-ups?
Yeah.
Oh, I love those.
Will there be like watchable ads? Have you thought about like those levels of monetization, like, or any must-haves or must-not-haves?
Yeah, so I definitely don't want ads just in the game. Like, you have to watch this for 2 minutes and then you're going to get 20 energy or something.
Yeah.
I think it really, I don't know. I just feel like it degrades the value of the game by quite a lot when you've got those in the game. So for us, you know, we don't want to go in that direction. We do think there'll be a number of areas in the game where, you know, just being an active player will get you reward, and being a more skilled player will get you reward. All that normal stuff, like rewards that you can earn. But yeah, we don't think doing ads in that way is going to make any sense. There probably will be an element of pop-ups, but nowhere near as egregious as Raid.
Like every time you go to the Bastion, like a 15
yeah,
pop-ups,
I mean,
every time you do one little thing. Do you think that like
maybe like once you've seen it on a day, it's like I can turn it off for the day type of thing, like once you've seen a pop-up?
Yeah, it becomes bad, but it shows you the psychological trick that is Raid, right? It becomes bad when you're like, okay, I know if I like, if you ever just want to like buy a diamond or something, you're like, all I have to do is click on my dungeon and then go back out and I'll get the pop-up. Like, it's easier than going to the shop. But I digress. So obviously, when it comes to raid, do you think that how raid used to be, you know, before, I guess, soulstones, you know, I guess in mythicals, is that kind of striking a decent balance for you in terms of like what monetization might look like, with the caveat of like less pop-ups?
I think so, yeah. And I think we're talking around things like rates for summoning. We don't know all the numbers final yet, but they won't be that dissimilar from raid. Like, so let's be clear. I've played games where you can get all legendaries really fast, and I've got really bored in those games, like really quickly. Like they just don't seem to hold players that well. So having that moment where you really feel like you've just got yourself something which is account changing, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So summoning will have a similar type of system to most of these other gacha games, but probably with rates that are just a little bit more favorable for the player, or with more options to get summoning crystals through gameplay. So, you know, you might get more of them, but the rates are similar. So it just feels like you can actually earn more, and therefore you're summoning more, you're going to get more chance to earn, you know, like those legendaries. And there will be areas of the game where you can just go and earn the stuff. So I guess the equivalent of a fusion in raid will do similar things. Not just fusions though. We want to mix up what that looks like on a monthly basis so that it feels fresh. And with that, you know, it won't be a case of, you know, if you take a day off in a 2-week period, you cannot earn. You cannot earn the champion. So our systems will be slightly different, but there definitely will be the option to go and earn champions in that way. And there's other stuff that I can't talk about right now, but there'll be ways to upgrade those champions where, again, it can be earned rather than just pulled through summons.
Is there going to be a resource like legendary skill tomes? I don't know. Is there going to be anything in the game that will not be able to be farmed somewhere in the game? You know what I'm saying? Like purchasable only? Or you're not sure about that yet?
So there will be skill tomes.
Where am I?
You know what? I'm not even sure where we ended up, because we definitely at one point had a dungeon for it. I think we still do.
Okay.
But don't hold me on that one. I'm not sure. We've been back and forth on it quite a bit.
I mean, we can cut this because I don't want to make any promises that we get to deliver on. But
but I mean, it's worth. Like, I don't mind sharing stuff where it's like we're in design conversations, like constantly going back and forth on some stuff, because there has to be a certain amount of things that are monetizable. Otherwise, the game just won't function. Honestly, we just won't earn enough money to function. So but then, you know, we do the sort of back and forth on, well, where do we think that should be, you know? And for example, our mastery system in Godforge is going to be completely different to what you see in a game like Raid, and you know, there won't be a kind of dungeon to go and farm, you know, needed to farm up the ability to use masteries, for example. You'll just unlock that within your heroes as you kind of like ascend them and level them and stuff.
So addressing some of those massive time sinks that feel like, you know, kind of outdated, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, those pain points, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just those pain points. Yeah.
Okay.
Which we're well aware of, because we played. A lot of people compare us to Raid, and obviously that's a natural comparison because of our audiences. But we've really gone and played like every game in this genre a ton.
Yeah.
And we've gone and looked at, you know, what features do we think are really strong? What have games done very well? What doesn't really land very well? You know, what happens if you just put auto battles that auto complete everywhere? Is that something that the player base love, or actually is it frustrating in the end? And like, there's a whole ton of stuff which we've gone and investigated whilst we're sort of mapping out all of our designs. So
well, I think that we've gotten a pretty fair grasp on like monetization and what the game will and will not be. I want to shift towards like the second most popular question I'm seeing, and that is regarding raid again. Surprise, surprise, but it's really regarding like, is this just a raid clone? You know, is this are you guys basically doing everything that raid did, only, you know, a little bit easier on some of those pain points? You know, so what do you say to that? Maybe that ties into the second aspect of the monetization, which is the standardized game modes, to tee you up there.
Yeah. Well, so I think. Yeah, I mean, I see it a fair amount in chats and stuff. Is this a raid clone? And again, if you look at raid, 5 years before raid, there was a game called Summoner's War, and actually, raid is almost a copy of Summoner's War, right? But it's graphically tons better. Like that's pretty much. Even some of the boss mechanics are basically the same. Now, I never played Summoner's War, so I wasn't aware of just how similar it was. But yeah, I mean. Raid have taken a game and then they've updated it with their own visuals. You know, you can go back to Final Fantasy, and the turn-based RPG is not a new thing, and it's not a raid thing. It's just a genre of game. Yeah. So in that sense, we are a turn-based RPG hero collector. So
there's similarities, yes.
Yeah, if that means we're a clone, then I guess we are. But we're not cloning raid. We're cloning the genre, which means there's going to be a lot of similarities. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about differences. What do you think? I would love to pull on the thread of the standardized game modes, the areas of the game where, like as you said, someone who spends $1 million can compete with somebody who just downloaded yesterday and hasn't spent anything.
Yeah. So two of the game modes that we're really excited about are the normalized modes. So for us, we're going to do a normalized, like roguelike PvE dungeon where every time you go into the run, you'll have new decisions to make. So you'll have a different starting hero. You'll pick up different heroes along the route.
Oh, cool.
You'll be trying to craft teams that synergize together, but you'll also be making decisions around power-ups that you collect, weapons that you collect, armor that you're able to put on your heroes, and make decisions around the direction you're going to go in terms of the types of enemies that you'll face.
Ooh, this is really cool. Is there an ending to it? Is there, or does it go? Is it infinity?
No, it's uncapped. So there will be like boss stages along the way.
Yeah,
and that's somewhat down to the decision and route that you take.
Ooh, okay.
But yeah, it will scale in difficulty in terms of what the enemies do. There'll be a point where probably no one should ever win that fight, but sometimes you'll just get like this godlike run where, you know, everything is just going your way. You're getting all of the heroes that really synergize very well together.
That makes for good streaming content too, right there. You know, maybe I have too much of my content.
You can't do that. Like, you can't do that to friends.
But like, I would love to see the best in the world, because as again, it's standardized. It's not like watching the best in the world with raid, where you're like, yeah, congratulations, you have all +4 mythicals fully empowered. You know, it's just like, it's different. You know.
Want to hear a new song?
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to. Okay. Go to hell. Go to hell.
Yeah, and it does become very knowledge-based and skill-based. And
yeah,
you know, if you've ever watched games like Hearthstone Battlegrounds or Teamfight Tactics, or just someone play something like Hades, the roguelike, like there's a lot of skill in understanding which directions you should go based on decisions you've got. And that's what intrigues me most, is like how fun can we make this, and how much can we make it like a different experience every time that you play. And with that in mind as well, we're going to have almost like a seasonal structure to it, where the heroes that are available for a run will change up with a season. So it's not just one meta forms and then everyone tries to hit that meta. And with those seasons, we'll be able to tweak things like conditions. So, you know, the weapons that are available will change. What the armor types do in that game mode will change. The bosses you might face will change. But then it also might be something like, I don't know, all order champions take 10% more damage, or apply a burn whenever they hit, or whatever we want to do. Honestly, we can mix it up.
That really intrigues me. I think I told you this yesterday in one of our meetings, but you've never played Dead Cells? Have you heard of it?
I didn't play that. No, I've not played that.
Oh man, I really love it. I'm like 5 years or whatever late to the game, but like I really love it. It's my first like real authentic roguelike experience, and it's super fun. Like playing that, I got myself thinking like I can't wait to play Godforge with this mode mapped onto a hero collector like this, you know, like that's really cool. And that for me is definitely a big differentiator, you know, between raid.
No, that's cool. I mean, and we'll also have things like leaderboards. So for that season,
so the seasonality model too.
And, yeah. And So if you imagine for
little
your
Dragonair
run,
vibe there with a leaderboard. Or not?
yeah. So we're not gonna with the leaderboard type of stuff. So if you can imagine on your run, every time you overcome like a boss encounter, you'll get loot on the run. But then the furthest you progress in that season, that will be kind of like your score on the leaderboard. So you might have a couple of crap runs, but you still want to go back in to try and get yourself, towards the top spot and get cosmetics or.
And it's going to be different every time. It's not even locked in. Like, is it going to be locked in the same version of that exact run all season, and then it changes?
Or no. Every run you do will be a different experience.
That's super cool.
That's the vibe.
Cool. I really like that. That's yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd be interested to know what you think. So when you're playing, did you say it's Dead Cell?
Yeah.
Like we're trying to make sure there's a certain time limit to a run, so that it doesn't feel like, oh no, I need to go in and do my 1 hour run, and it feels like rather than an experience. So I'm interested. How long would you think it'd be? And perhaps anyone who's watching, give us some ideas around.
Yeah, because I'm 2 days. I'm 2 days experience with this game. They have like a Castlevania downloadable content, and that's my jam. Right. So that's how I got into the game, to play the mini game, whatever. But anyway, the way that they do it is, from my understanding after 2 day player, is there's no time limits, but you get bonuses if you get to a boss or clear a stage under a certain time. So maybe you get like double your gear or whatever it may be, but you get like really nice bonuses if under 8 minutes you cleared this stage or whatever it may be, right?
Oh, that's very cool, actually. I hadn't thought about doing it in that direction.
There he is. There's a traitor.
You get improved stuff if you're going quicker.
Yeah, rather than penalizing, you actually get solid rewards, like meaningful rewards. So it naturally incentivizes going fast, but it also doesn't penalize you if you're just slow and you just want to understand all the dynamics,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one cool idea. There's other things too, like you can, if you go without taking damage or something like that, or kill an amount of champions without taking damage, you get another bonus. So like there's room there for other, I guess, ways to incentivize certain activities.
Yeah. And I think, so what we want it to be able to do, and again, we're working through the design of it. And for those who don't know, like the design of this type of feature, or any game feature, honestly, it takes a lot of time, because you have to make sure that anyone can just pick up and play and it doesn't feel too complex. But you also need that kind of depth in the game mode, that someone that really wants to push it has got the ability to push it a bit further and really try and min-max what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we're thinking that, there might be this kind of godlike run where you're just picking up a ton of power-ups for one particular hero. Let's say it was Zeus, and you basically turn Zeus into this absolute, like, proper god that's just one-shotting all these waves, doing crazy stuff. Whereas, another run, you might be focused on, I need all Avalon heroes to be able to really unlock my power-ups, and therefore it's more like a team-based power-up. And the more you kind of like leverage into that, the further you could get. So there'll be some interesting different directions, I think. But yeah, that's definitely a fun one to be trying to work through.
No, absolutely. There's definitely some possibilities there. What about the second game mode? You said there was two.
Yeah, sure. So the second one, I guess, similar feel in a way. So it's normalized again, but PvP.
Okay.
And so for this, what we're thinking is generally there'll be a ladder for normalized PvP, but there'll also be the ability to, let's say, Ash, you wanted to do like a clan invite tournament, and you could set up your own tournament with 16 participants, and you could say, right, invite only. I'm just going to invite my guys from the clan that are going to take part in this. It's like, who's the best in our clan at this game mode type of thing.
Yeah.
Or it might be, we decide to do a content creator challenge and we just invite content creators that are going to come in. Or it might be that someone just says, I'm going to set up one, but anyone can join from the game, but they have to have a certain player power, or I'm only going to let people use epics, or whatever it is. Like basically conditions that you set as the person who's setting this up.
Okay.
So the idea of this is, I guess we've stolen the idea to a certain degree, because I used to play a lot of Hearthstone Arena. And with Hearthstone Arena, you're kind of like drafting your set of cards based on different decisions. So You have like 30 picks, and each pick you're choosing between 1 or 3 cards to try and get a good synergy of cards and make a good deck. With our PvP mode, it's a similar type of idea that you'll be getting choices of heroes, and everyone who plays in this kind of like same ladder or same kind of like attack, I guess, like you're going into the same pool, will get the same decisions to make, and you're basically trying to build yourself a defense that you can put in for people to attack, and then you're also putting in an offense for you to use. And you're just kind of drafting heroes to try and fill those roles.
So it's just like straight up going back to Magic the Gathering, just Friday Night Magic. You're just drafting off of the pack, right? Like that's it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
There'll be conditions for a season, so it might be a case of well, only 50 heroes from the pool are available in this season, and again there'll be conditions around potentially like each pool or each tournament. There'll just be conditions around what's stronger, weaker. Just
anybody can start these tournaments basically, and there's like a prize at the end of the season. Is that how they go?
Yeah, so there'll be a general leaderboard for the community.
Yeah.
We're thinking something like, and again, this might not be on launch, but it might be something we add a little bit later, but something like the top 128 people in terms of how they performed in this kind of like leaderboard will then go into an ultimate end of season knockout, which the community can follow and
that'd be cool.
And get behind. Some of their fave
start a little
players
fantasy league. Gotcha. Nice. That's cool though. That's cool. And again, it's all made intriguing to me just based on the fact that it's standardized, right? Like that it's anybody. There's that glimmer of hope and promise that anybody could be there next month or whatever.
I think that becomes quite good streamable content again, right? So even if you are not someone who enjoys PvP, and there's loads of people that do not, some people still enjoy watching the challenge of the draft, the challenge of well, how are you going to make a good defense and offense out of these heroes that you've drafted, and then what are you going to face from what other people have drafted? And sometimes there might be a curveball. Let's say Zeus again is in the pool, and there's 2 options with Zeus. So let's say in the pool currently is an absolute nuke Zeus, or I don't know, one that protects your team in some way. And you don't know which one of those builds you're fighting against when you see them in defense. So you might plan your offense as if it was, you're fighting against like a nuker Zeus, when actually he's set up to massively just protect his team. So
that's cool though. I like that customization.
It's just the more knowledge I think you'd have of a set, or for that set, for that tournament group, the better you could achieve. And with that type of thing, so we're thinking if you were to win 12 fights in a row, basically that's the maximum reward you could get. Plus you get like another entry if you wanted to go back in and draft again, plus rewards. But let's say you won less than 3 fights, well, you would just get like minimal rewards. So it's one of those things that you could go back in for again if you just like that game mode.
That's cool. No, I'm looking forward to both of those. Like I'm sure those will be 2 crowd favorites, given how unique they are to the genre, at least in my experience. I'd be remiss if I did not ask you one more hard-hitting question here, Simon.
Yeah, definitely.
And that is about the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive that I've seen overall since the release of the demo, with one exception, and that has been a lot of either vocal minority or just majority of people giving like really unsure about this camera angle here. So we're seeing it in the background right now. It's talk a little bit about, if you can, I'm not sure how much you've shared before, but like how did we get to this point that this is where we decided on, and what do you think of the feedback so far?
So I'm actually going to be doing a video on the Fateless YouTube channel next week.
So check that out, guys. This is a teaser
where I address not just this, but I'm addressing like like the top 10 asked questions. So this is one of them, right? So the camera, it's interesting. So what we looked at is Raid Shadow Legends, the winner currently in terms of like the Western style view, the Western style quality graphics. So that's been one of the games that we've looked at for some inspiration along the way. Of course we know it so well. But we also looked at actually the #1 game in the genre, which is Honkai Star Rail, and they use basically this view but on an anime game, and it's kind of like a cinematic experience where you get to see your characters, your heroes, way more kind of like upfront and personal. You really get to feel their animations and stuff like that. And we thought that could be quite a cool mashup between that kind of like the raid visual, but with the combat style of something like a Honkai Star Rail. And to give some context, like Honkai, I think has got something like 4 or 5 times more players than raid on a daily basis. So it's massively like a juggernaut in the genre right now. So we thought it'd be really cool. Anyway, I had a bunch of feedback to say it feels a bit jarring. And I guess the answer to that is, firstly, it's not set in stone that that's where we'll go. But for the demo, what we were trying to do is at least show people how that playstyle would feel. And there's a bunch of the stuff which just isn't fixed yet, which will be making it feel more jarring than it is.
This is like this is like alpha.
Pre-alpha. Yeah, basically. Yeah. So things like, our characters not jumping back after they've attacked. Sometimes they just stand and stare for a couple of seconds. The enemy not jumping fluidity back into their position. Things like that just weren't done in time for the demo. And also things like some of the visual effects are just not polished enough to really sell the moves and stuff like that. So there's that element that we've still got play in terms of, playing around with how far away we are from our hero and stuff like that. When you buff your team, we originally thought we would do is you would kind of like hit the buff button and then you'd flick and see your team rather than just seeing portraits. Again, it didn't get in time for the demo. So it's very hard to understand it's hard to make a decision right now, basically. Before we get to like a beta point where it's like, guys, come and play it. Actually feel the game as it's meant to be played.
Try a couple battles, see what happens, see what you think.
And then we start to hear the feedback again. But we've already taken it back to the design team and said, if we needed to, could we turn on 2 camera angles? Like if we had to, and how much extra work is that to do? And it's some extra work, but it's not like game changing. It would put us back some time, but not like crazy amounts of time because it's just cameras. But the other thing you benefit from with the kind of upfront and only seeing one of your team when they're going to attack is that we're able to just raise the quality of the visual we can represent on a mobile by quite a lot. And again, those people that play tested in Gamescom that were playing on the mobiles were like, damn, this feels really slick. Which is hard to get across when you're not actually the person playing it. In person
on a screen recording. Yeah. Okay, so TLDR, you'll be addressing this next week. I look forward to that video on the Fateless YouTube channel, which will be linked. And but like anything's possible, I guess, at this point, right?
I agree with you. Way out,
we're already seeing it. Is like the game's not even released at all, right? No one's played it, but you start to get like enormous amounts of community feedback on every little thing, which is awesome. But also it's important to always remind yourself, right, that we need to at least like allow people to play the game before we really start making changes, right? You just don't want to do a knee-jerk reaction, because on the Fateless side too, there is this inherent like idea and ethos of wanting to please the community, be community first, right? So like you at the same time you have to kind of juxtapose that with like, okay, we have to also not be crazy really reactive here and let people experience the game.
And also it's funny because you get the don't be a raid clone, but then when you see something different from raid, people are like, what's this?
Like
we're used to the other view.
You don't need to reinvent the wheel, Hades. There you go.
So there's a bit of that. But one of the things which I wanted to say as well, what I was just about to say, I just lost my own train of thought.
Community,
Sorry, I lost it.
Camera angle, episode next week. You'll talk a little bit more about it.
I know what I was going to say. So obviously when people get in and actually play the beta and are able to sort of get that first-hand experience of the gameplay rather than just seeing it through a different point of view, someone else's point of view. It's a completely different experience. So we are very open to feedback, and we're very open to kind of like listening to what people say. There was also though a ton of people perhaps that weren't as loud in their feedback that really loved the camera angle. And you know, that's one of the things that kind of gets lost when you've got, you know, a loud group, is that there's a number of people that were saying really love the kind of like different visual, different style. And we can't discount that as well, you know, because generally people that are upset with something are much noisier than people that love something. So
this
yeah,
is true.
you know, we're still trying to
factor in everybody's opinion for sure. I get you, man. My final question for you, Hades, is: are beta signups still open right now? Can people still sign up right now?
Yep. So we can go to fateless.gg. We've got the kind of low effort beta sign up form there for now.
We'll have links for you guys.
But yeah, we're kind of getting ourselves ready for the big beta push early next year.
All right. Any final words on your end, Simon? Thanks so much for being so generous and giving us the full update here on all the hard hitting topics here for Godforge.
Yeah, I just appreciate everyone who's kind of like got behind us already. There's so many. What's crazy for me is there's so many YouTube channels that are already popping up.
I know.
It's crazy, right? I'm just like, what?
I was gonna shout out some, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna forget like half the channels because it's already like at least half a dozen out there. I don't know. I didn't expect it. Mad Capper, I saw him out there making some content. There's a lot though, but that's really cool to have this sort of a strength in community, both creators but also you guys like viewers, going into a game like this on a debut game from a brand new studio is really unheard of, but it's just testament to you guys, the viewers out there, and how much they're looking forward and their belief, I guess, in the team behind this. So you know, thanks again for sharing us all the background footage that we saw today, and really looking forward to sharing the next update with my audience here. I'll have Hell Hades YouTube channel, the Fateless YouTube channel, and beta signups link for all of you guys in the pinned comment and the description below. Hades, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, man.
All right, guys, take care.